Are you afraid of doing interproximal reduction on your patients because you don't like the idea or feeling of shaving down your patient's teeth? So most dentists don't really know what interproximal reduction is or how it works. And in this video, I'm gonna go over 5 different techniques that you can use on your patients so that you can choose the best one for you. Hey, I'm Dr. Avi. I'm a dentist who started over 50 cases in my first 6 months of offering aligners, and I've gone on to do hundreds of cases since. On this channel, I help dentists get confidence with aligners through simplifying the process with these videos. So some of the cases that I've been able to do have been ones like this, where I had to confidently go in and do 0.5 millimeters of IPR from canine to canine to achieve the desired result in 23 trays, and we pulled off over 40 degrees of mandibular canine rotation. So if you want to know the simple and easy system that we use to achieve this result, stick around to the end of the video and I'm going to share it with you guys. Now, like everything that I make, this training works for all clear aligner brands, so it doesn't matter who you're using. You can take these strategies and apply it to all brands. So let's talk about what is IPR. Where did it even come from? So John Sheridan invented IPR and he called it air rotor stripping back in the 80s. And this was a brand new concept that no one had ever heard of, because traditionally the way to make space was either by extracting teeth, which is super aggressive, or distalizing the teeth in the arch. And so at the time, like with any innovation, people are gonna rip you for it. And that's what happened, but he stuck with it. And now it's become a very popular and predictable way to gain space in cases that require you to get space to solve things like crowding. And something that needs to just be cleared up, IPR is not about shaving teeth down. It's not. I don't care who told you it is not. It is about removing friction. So my mentors, Dr. Christina Blocker and Dr. Galler, they like to talk about IPR in this way. It's all about removing friction and polishing between the teeth. And so by you're removing the friction, you're creating space between the teeth. And in that space, the teeth can then move into. And this is how you can resolve your crowding cases. And so if you think about teeth and they're crowded, they're stuck on top of each other, right? And so when they're trying to move, there's nowhere for them to go because there's friction, right? And so if you just relieve that friction, then the teeth can glide past each other. And that is how you can resolve the crowding. So think about IPR as removing friction. And a popular IPR system that you may be familiar with is probably not the best way to go about it. This is the disc system. And so what the disc system is an end cutting super sharp disc that you stick onto your handpiece, and then you just spin that thing in between the teeth, and then you try to create space like that. And so as you can see here in this video, they make it look super easy and super simple, but in reality, it's not always like that, because when you are actually taking that disc between the teeth, there are so many things that can happen. The disc can get caught, there can be too much friction between the teeth, and the disc can skip and fly. And the next thing you know, you could cause harm to the patient like this. Granted, that is just a small cut on the side of the cheek. However, there have been other records and times where docs have actually cut the patient's lip in other ways, the gums start bleeding, and things get really crazy. But the worst part about the disc system is you are at such a high risk for ledging. When you ledge, you're gonna get results like this. So while you slip the disc in between the teeth and you go to check with the IPR gauge to see how much space you made, sure, on the top it looks like you made enough space, but then when they come in for their recare appointments and you take new x-rays, you see this thing. And so that is not excess cement, because there is no crown or no cement on this teeth. That is ledging. And that happened because the end cutting disc was not placed at the perfect angulation in between the teeth to account for the contours of the teeth. And so what happened is tooth structure got removed. And now that is a problem, because that patient is at a higher risk for getting cavities and other issues, all because a disc was used. So this is iatrogenic damage, and the disc system puts you at high risk for this. And so this is why I am not a fan of an end cutting disc system. But a pretty cool system that an orthodontist friend of mine recommended to me was this thing called an oscillating system. And so an oscillating system is something that kind of accounts for those risk factors and the negatives of a disc system. And so first what you would do is you would go in and you would take a very fine finishing strip to go in between the teeth, as you can see here, and create just a little bit of space, probably breaking the contact between the teeth. And then the next thing you do is you take this oscillating fan attachment, and you can see it has cutting edges, not on the edge of the teeth, but on the flat surface of the teeth. And so what it does now is it actually goes in and it oscillates in a fan motion. So it's just very minimal, but you go through and it goes back and forth and it creates just enough space based on how thick that attachment is. And so you would do this in sequential order, and you would continue to go up in width until you reach the desired width that you would like to. And so one of the benefits here is that you don't need a lip guard or anything like that for the fan system attachment because it's not end cutting, right? It cuts on the flat surface of the tooth. So it's a lot more safer, definitely more predictable than a disc. Personally, I have not used it, but like I said, one of my good orthodontist friends recommended it to me. And so you guys should totally go check that out if it's something that you're interested in. So if you're a dentist who wants to get confidence with aligners and you just don't know where to start, be sure to check out one of my free trainings. But if you want something that's more structured with some implementation resources and support, then you might be a good fit for our course, Aligner Blueprint. It has helped hundreds of dentists generate over $9 million in aligners alone, and they've all been able to do cases with confidence. The links for all those are in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out or go to our website, clearalineradvisor.co, and that's where you'll find all this information. So when docs tell me that they use this IPR system, I giggle because I know how frustrating it can be. This is a finishing strip system, and sure, it might be good to create 0.1 millimeters of space, but if you have to go and create 0.4, 0.5 millimeters of space, if you've ever done this, you know how hard it can be because it takes so long and you're sitting there and you're just taking the strip and you're just waxing back and forth between the teeth, and you do it for like 7 minutes and then you look and nothing happened. So the actual perception of doing a finishing strip IPR is painful. And honestly, it's pretty awkward when you're trying to do like the anteriors, because if you've ever tried to get in between the patient's teeth, like you have to grab the strip with your 4 fingers and go back and forth and try to make the space. But it is something that people use because it is super conservative when you're comparing it to some of these other like motorized disc systems. So something to remember, finishing strips were meant to polish and finish composite, not tooth structure. And so trying to go up in width of 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 millimeters of space, it's gonna be very hard to do with a finishing strip because it just wasn't designed to do that. Now, an innovative IPR system that takes the best features of the existing methods and tries to eliminate all the worst of them is the GOST system. This is an IPR system that was invented by Dr. David Galler and Dr. David Ostreicher, and it's a technique that uses a combination approach. So you're gonna have quick strips and you use those initially, and then you're gonna switch over to an electric motorized handpiece with a disc that is not end cutting, but it is surface cutting. So what that does is helps you virtually eliminate the risk of ledging on teeth, and it also makes it a lot more safer to do because it comes with a lip guard that goes over the disc itself. And so as Dr. David Galler likes to call it, he says you can use this to kiss the contact in between the teeth, and you get in and you get out and you're done. And so how do you do this? So what you first do is you want to take topical gel. Any compounding pharmacy can make it. You're going to have 10% lidocaine, 10% prilocaine, and about 4% tetracaine. Or you can use tack or profound. Those also work great. So you're going to dry the gums, you're going to take a microbrush, paint some of this onto the papilla, and let it sit for a few minutes. Most gums are going to be inflamed, right? Because if you think about it, it's a crowding case. And so crowded teeth are going to have inflamed gums because there's going to be like plaque buildup and stuff like that. So you want to use topical. This video here demonstrates the procedure. And so you can see I'm going in with some quick strips to create that initial space to break the contact. And then I take the disc and I put it between the teeth, and then I'm able to drop it in between. And what it does is it only cuts where the band is on the tooth. And so it's a really nice and effective way to get in there. And we take this all the way up to 0.5 millimeters, which to me and you know, with our loops, it looks pretty big, but in reality, it's not. And that's what patients see. And so 0.5 millimeters can be done very quickly, very efficiently with this system. And so the benefits, like I said, it's fast, it's precise. And I personally like this system if I have to do like 0.2 millimeters of IPR, especially in the maxillary anterior. You know, one of the drawbacks is you do have to purchase this system, and you have to get an electric motor and the special nose cone, and you got to replace the discs after every 2 uses. So this can be costly. However, if you find yourself being more efficient with this and you're doing more cases, it's worth the investment. So if you're enjoying this video or found it helpful in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could just share it with one of your dentist friends. Just copy the link, drop it in your favorite group chat, or post it in one of your favorite Facebook groups or communities, and just share it. That's it. My mission at the end of the day is to make aligner education accessible to as many dentists as possible. And so by sharing this video, you're gonna help me move closer to this goal, and I really appreciate your support. So the mosquito burr high-speed technique, it is my personal favorite because it's quick, easy, and I have a good amount of control. And I actually used it on this case where I had to do 0.5 millimeters of IPR from canine to canine. And so you can see how much crowding there was on this patient. And we were able to predictably do it with this technique. And we also managed to get over 40 degrees of canine rotation, like you can see here. And the best part is we finished this case in just 23 aligners and under 6 months of treatment. And so this was what we got, the before and the after. Such a good result, all with the simple mosquito burr high-speed technique. And so the way this technique works is you're going to go between the two teeth and place the mosquito burr just under the contact like you can see here. And you're just gonna wanna go in a fanning, sweeping motion up through the contact. Now, this is a special IPR mosquito burr that they're using in this video. So that's why they kind of just drop it in and then kind of go up in one swoop. If you're using a burr like this, you're gonna wanna do just about the initial third or the initial half of that burr and use a sweeping kind of paintbrush motion underneath the contact towards the incisal until you can see through the tooth. Now, at that point, that means you have officially created 0.3 millimeters of space. And then you're gonna wanna go in with the quick strips, because let's say you have a case where you need to do 0.5 millimeters of IPR. You would take the quick strips and you would just do the 0.4 size and the 0.5 millimeter size. I believe it's the green and the black. And yeah, and you just take those and you go back and forth. And then once that 0.5 millimeter quick strip has dropped through, you officially are done. And you can always check with your IPR gauge to see how your results came out. And so something that I want you to remember is IPR in general, it is really good for anterior teeth. I do not recommend it for posterior teeth because it is simply not as predictable. And I like this technique because all you really need to purchase are the quick strips. And you most likely already have that red mosquito burr. So if you get one nugget from this training and found it valuable in any way, you need to watch this video that I made. We go deeper on these aligner concepts. I'll see you in there.